It is now my special honor to welcome Mr. Willem Post, Special Advisor to the Mayor of the Municipality of The Hague. Mr. Post, you now have the floor.
Honored guests, a very warm welcome here in The Hague. I'm from The Hague, so I'm very proud of my own city, The Hague. Well, this is a rather famous convention center. Not too long ago, we had here the Nuclear Security Summit with, I think, 80 or 90 world leaders, including the Chinese president, the Russian Minister of Foreign Affairs, President Obama. It seems a long time ago that he was president in the United States, don't you think so? Well, he has his supporters here in The Hague. You've come here to the Hague International Model United Nations, an annual event which has taken place without interruption for almost half a century. The Hague is very proud of that, as you can imagine. The UN city of The Hague is, of course, just the right place to hold THIMUN. The Hague has always been an open and hospitable city, a city without walls, both literally and figuratively, as The Hague never had city walls. That is also partly why The Hague was able to evolve to become the world's international law capital, with all the courts and tribunals. A city in which the world is at home. Almost every language is spoken here and every faith practiced. The Hague stands for freedom and tolerance, entirely in line with the thinking of the great philosopher Baruch Spinoza, who lived and worked here in The Hague almost 350 years ago. Spinoza's philosophy was groundbreaking, certainly in his time. He got to the heart of the matters which we are still debating today. For instance, the relationship between church and state, citizen and government, power and freedom. He was a standard bearer for the freedom to philosophize, something which he considered essential to a peaceful society. Spinoza was also a champion of democracy, which he considered to be the most natural and reasonable form of government. Why? Because democracy is most closely aligned to everyone's desire to live in safety and not in fear. American President Franklin Roosevelt built on this with his famous 4 freedoms formulated 75 years ago during the height of World War II. Freedom of speech, freedom of worship, freedom from want and freedom from fear. Universal freedoms, still today. Freedoms which form an essential part of The Hague's identity as the international city of peace and justice and the heart of the Netherlands democracy. And that brings me to the THIMUN theme. Very actual, of course. Borders in a globalizing world. A well-chosen theme. Highly topical. Because after a period in which cooperation was seen as the way forward, it would now appear that the opposite tendency is gaining ground. Once again, walls and borders are being thrown up, international treaties revoked, together with even louder calls of "my country first." A worrying development, ladies and gentlemen. History offers more than enough examples of what nationalism can lead to. 2 world wars brought Europe to the brink of disaster. And keep in mind that today it's 84 years ago that Adolf Hitler came to power in Nazi Germany. After 1945, there was therefore a tremendous will after the war to work together. It seems so natural, overcome barriers and bridge political differences with the aim of ensuring that such a terrible war would never happen again. And it was therefore no coincidence that it was here in The Hague, where in 1899 and 1907 the first peace conferences had been held, that the foundations for the European Union was first laid. That was in 1948, 3 years after the Second World War. The traces of destruction left by the Second World War were still visible everywhere, also here in The Hague. There were, for instance, shortages of everything: food, drinks, basic needs, and you still needed coupons, to make it concrete, to buy many things. But there was one thing that was in abundance. There was no shortage of hope. The hope of a better future, a future of peace. A few years later, in his typically powerful manner, Sir Winston Churchill expressed the ideal of a united Europe by referring to the Battle of Britain in 1914. And I quote Mr. Churchill: "The soldier who laid down his life, the mother who wept for her son, and the wife who lost her husband got inspiration or comfort and felt a sense of being linked with the universal and the eternal by the fact that we fought for what was precious, not only for ourselves, but for mankind." The conservative and liberal parties in Great Britain declare that national sovereignty is not inviolable and that it may be resolutely diminished for the sake of all the men in all the lands finding their way home together. End of quote. The current President of the United States, only 8 to 9 days in office, has different ideas, even though he claims to admire Churchill. Last week, the populist parties of Europe met in Koblenz in Germany. Their goal: to destroy the European Union and revive nationalism. Perhaps another title for this conference might have been "The Rebirth of Borders in the Globalizing World," but I'm sure you will discuss this in the coming days also. The globalizing of trade and economics has, of course, also brought harmful effects with it, and the European Union is also not without its flaws. Every clear-thinking person is in agreement about that. But what we also know is that protectionist politics eventually only lead to less prosperity, and nationalism is a dead-end road. And that is why it's only good that you are here together for the Hague International Model United Nations, because THIMUN stands for international cooperation, friendship and understanding. Here you meet other young people like yourselves from different countries and cultures. Here you listen to one another's arguments and then how to reach agreement. That is real democracy, not that one moment you are going to vote, once in the 3, 4, 5, 6 years. It's a process. You are tomorrow's world citizens. Don't fall into the trap of populism and nationalism. They offer simplistic, ready-made solutions to the huge challenges facing our world today, which also explains their success. But a huge and empty void lies behind the sweeping statements. Now, more than ever, we need to work together to build bridges, to ensure that everything we have built over the last 70 years is not swept away. It is about your future. Fortunately, we are not alone. And I'm sure that even though we live in an age of so-called alternative facts, reason will ultimately prevail. I wish you every success over the next few days and an enjoyable time in The Hague. There is a lot at stake. Thank you.